Hi, my name is Philip Coleman. I just want to take a few minutes to share my story with you. Um, you know, life is hard out there, and it only takes just an instance, for you to take your eyes off Jesus and then make some really bad decisions that can alter the rest of your life. But here I am. I mean, my he leads music at a church here in Gardendale, Alabama, and I graduated Christian school, and it doesn't matter what your background is. You as an individual have to keep your eyes focused on Jesus, because if you don't, Satan will come in and he'll get you just like that. So you got to keep your eyes focused on him all the time. And if you're not at that point yet to where you're ready to give your life over to Jesus, I pray after hearing this you will be. So just check out my story. My story begins very simple. When I was 5 years old, my dad was helping me memorize some Bible verses, John 3:16, for my Sunday school class. It was then if he asked me if I wanted to be saved, and I said yes, or so I thought I was. I thought I wanted to be saved that day. I prayed a simple prayer, went through the motions of just saying the sinner's prayer. So I thought I was saved that day. Now fast forward to the age of 12, to when I was introduced to pornography by a family member. It was by this same family member that I was sexually molested for the next 2 years. This absolutely messed me up mentally and emotionally for the next 9 or 10 years. I trusted no one, and emotionally I was afraid to let anyone close to me. You see, my feelings of emotional isolation had only faded with time. By the age of 21, it was only coated with an addiction to prescription pain pills, though. The feelings always fade when you have something there to coat it, and that's what I was coating my feelings with. That was with pain pills. My addiction got worse over the next 2 years. However, I did have a brief victory of about 3 months where I was sober. I was during this time period that I had a real experience with God. He revealed to me that my little 5-year-old prayer was nothing more than a bunch of words. I had no concept of what it really meant to be saved. I'd lived my life up to this point depending on those words that I had termed as a sinner's prayer, even though I had no concept of even what it meant or what I had done when I was 5. I really wasn't saved at the age of 5, but I can tell you that on Sunday, September 30th, 2007, I was sitting in Bible fellowship class with Andy Heiss, Jecca Dial, Jecca Nix now, had given her testimony. I was just talking about how she had lived her whole life just going to church and just depending on everything around her family and everything that she was doing good, and she was just basing her salvation on that. And I looked at that, and God really convicted my heart of that and showed me that I was lost. I was lost as last year's Easter egg, as Andy Heiss says. But anyway, God got a hold of me that day, and He made me His own. But see, after that, I was saved, and after the time that I was saved, I went through the time of being on fire for God, and I was really pursuing a relationship with Him. But it wasn't long until I had a lot of difficult circumstances in my life to take me on a detour away from Jesus. I slowly eased back into my drug addiction. And it was then, while I was in the midst of that second go round of addiction, Satan started bringing up my past. And he had me convinced that it was my fault that I was molested and that I was nothing more than a lowlife. My addiction only sped up at this point. From 2006 to 2010, I was only sober twice. And one of those times was when I was locked up in Jefferson County Jail. Terrible decisions from a previous year landed me there for 30 days. I did a month there. It was in jail where I sought out places to buy more pills. A buddy of mine had called me from jail. I'd given him my phone number and then told him to call me, so he called me when he got out and told me he had some pills for me. But at that time he also told me that he had a cheaper and better way of getting high, which is what I wanted to do. I just wanted to block out all the emotional pain, everything that had gone on in my life. I was just trying to block it all out. That cheaper way and better way was called heroin. I had become a heroin addict. It's hard for me to look back and even believe that this was my life, but it had become my life. When you allow Satan to creep in to your life, he comes in a little at a time, and I allowed him to creep in through drugs. You know, I had become a heroin addict, a professional con, a thief, and an outright liar. But you know, my story doesn't conclude there. You see, even through all my sin, God's grace and mercy prevailed many times. I could have been shot, I could have been killed or arrested, but I never was. I got myself into a lot of dangerous situations out there doing drugs. Some deadly situations many times. I saw things, did things I never dreamed I would, but God's grace and mercy still prevailed. Even through all this, God's grace continued to extend to me further by allowing me to forgive my molester. That was a hard thing to do, but God's grace and His mercy allowed me to do that. God's grace prevailed by allowing me to live through 2 overdoses, one on pills and one on heroin, both of which put me on death's doorstep and landed me fighting for my existence on life support. The first time I overdosed on pills put me on life support. I had taken so many pills that I was in a coma for almost 24 hours, and I woke up on an elevator riding up to the ICU. I'll never forget that day. I was told that I should be dead, but God's grace and mercy still has me here. The second time I overdosed was I was in my car. This happened July 6th of 2010. This shows you how current it was. I was in my car, and I had gotten some bad heroin, and I overdosed. And my life should have come to an end that day, but it didn't. God's grace and mercy prevailed in my life by using the same person who introduced me to heroin to save my life by calling 911 when he easily could have and should have left the scene. His grace also prevailed by using that same person who now has over a year clean to help me realize my need for help. Jesus' grace has prevailed by breaking the chains of addiction in my life and by allowing me to share my story about Him and His amazing examples of grace shown throughout my entire life. I know what Satan meant for evil, God meant for good. So now, by God's grace, I continue with a renewed mind and a purpose in life. As you can see, every circumstance in my life has a theme. God prevailed. So, you see, no matter what your story is, no matter how many times you think that you've done something just so terrible that God can't forgive you, listen, I'm the picture of grace right here. God painted a picture of grace, and I'm it. So don't ever think that your life is in too much chaos or you've done too much wrong where God can't forgive you, because He does and He will. Just turn it all over to Him. He's got an awesome plan for each of your lives. God bless you. I love you. Thank you for listening.